Is President Trump going to sign a new executive order to send stimulus checks to millions of Americans? That question has dominated headlines and stirred hope among millions who continue to struggle with rising costs and financial uncertainty. Look at this. Recently, President Trump confirmed that he has signed some executive orders, calling them very important and suggesting that new actions are being prepared to address America's ongoing economic concerns. Many now wonder, could one of those executive orders involve direct payments or stimulus checks? Millions of Americans are waiting for $2,000 worth of stimulus checks from President Trump. And right here, we're breaking down. Look at this. What to know about Trump's pitch for $2,000 stimulus checks from tariff revenue. You already know the government has faced shutdown concerns, economic pressure, and rising debt. Trump's plan, according to recent interviews, focuses on using a portion of tariff revenue to help struggling Americans. In simple terms, he's proposing to redirect money collected from tariffs on foreign imports and send it directly back to U.S. citizens. Why is this idea gaining attention? Because inflation remains one of the biggest financial burdens facing Americans today. Look at this. 75% of Americans report soaring prices as Trump claims inflation over. Exclusive poll: inflation remains a concern despite the president's pledge to reduce prices on day one. Despite some reports suggesting inflation is slowing, most households continue to feel the pain of higher grocery bills, energy costs, and housing expenses. According to Gallup and multiple financial surveys, food prices alone have risen over 20% in just the past 3 years. So, while official inflation figures look moderate, the lived reality for most Americans tells a different story. This is where Trump's $2,000 stimulus idea comes in. His plan aims to use tariff-generated funds, billions collected from countries like China, to issue what he calls dividend or rebate checks to ordinary Americans. And that brings us to a key part of the story. Look at this. President Trump has again floated the idea of giving Americans stimulus checks based on revenue from his tariffs. The big picture: Trump is continuing to promote the revenue from tariffs as they receive pushback from the courts. Legal experts note that Trump's tariff policies have faced ongoing challenges, especially regarding how those funds are used. Still, the former president insists that these revenues belong to the American people and could serve as a direct relief measure. Look at this. In a recent appearance, Trump said on One America News television network in an interview that aired on Thursday that he is considering offering Americans checks from the revenue, worth somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000. That's a direct confirmation from the former president himself, not speculation. He has publicly discussed the concept of tariff-funded relief checks multiple times over the past year. Trump further explained that he believes America's economic strength gives it the power to help its citizens directly, especially amid global instability and ongoing inflationary pressures. In an earlier Fox interview, he expanded on this idea, mentioning that around $200 billion in tariff profits could potentially be redirected to U.S. households. When asked about the broader economic impact, Trump said something that caught attention nationwide. Look at this. We're going to do something. We're looking at something. Number one, we're paying down debt. Because people have allowed the debt to go crazy, he said. We'll pay back debt, but we also might make a distribution to the people, almost like a dividend to the people of America, he added. That statement has become the centerpiece of Trump's economic vision, balancing fiscal responsibility while returning some of the gains from international trade back to American families. Analysts say this could be the first time in U.S. history where tariff revenue, traditionally used for federal spending, is redistributed as a direct dividend to citizens. To put this into perspective, look at this. As of June, the U.S. had already collected more than $100 billion in customs revenue since Trump took office, Axios reported this summer. Most of that, $81.5 billion in total, is from tariffs imposed since January 20th. That's a huge amount of money sitting in federal accounts, money that Trump argues should be shared with the people who bear the cost of rising prices on imported goods. Meanwhile, the inflation issue hasn't disappeared. Look at this. 75% of Americans report soaring prices as Trump claims inflation over. Exclusive poll: Inflation remains a concern despite President's pledge to reduce prices on day one. Even with policy changes and market adjustments, Americans continue to face record prices in rent, utilities, and everyday essentials. And that's why the conversation about direct payments or relief checks keeps coming back. The pressure is real, and political leaders are feeling it. Trump has floated the idea of new stimulus checks before. In July, the president suggested that the government might consider tariff rebate checks as well. He and Elon Musk, at the time still involved with the White House, said they were considering the idea of a $5,000 dividend check based on Doge savings. That earlier discussion didn't advance into legislation, but it established a clear pattern. Trump is serious about exploring creative financial measures to support households, whether through tariff dividends or digital asset-based rebates. Economists have mixed views. Some say using tariff revenue for stimulus could provide short-term relief and strengthen consumer confidence. Others warn it could worsen inflation by injecting more money into an already heated economy. Still, the political momentum around this idea continues to grow, especially among Trump supporters who see it as a fair way to return U.S.-generated wealth to its people. From a broader policy standpoint, this proposal aligns with Trump's long-standing trade philosophy, America First, where foreign trade partners bear higher tariff costs, and the resulting funds flow back to American workers and retirees. If implemented, these checks could resemble pandemic-era relief payments, but sourced entirely from foreign trade levies instead of borrowed federal funds. At the same time, many fiscal conservatives remain cautious. With U.S. debt now surpassing $37 trillion, some lawmakers argue that any additional spending, even if self-funded through tariffs, could complicate broader efforts to stabilize the national budget. Others counter that redistributing tariff revenue doesn't add to the deficit since it's existing income, not new borrowing. So, will this plan actually happen? Trump's team hasn't confirmed an exact timeline or executive order yet, but his continued discussion of this proposal in multiple interviews, including with ONN, Fox, and Newsmax, shows that the idea is alive and gaining traction. Supporters say it's a bold and patriotic plan to help Americans who've suffered from high prices and global disruptions. Critics say it's politically motivated and unlikely to pass Congress if formal approval is required. Still, the fact remains Trump continues to revisit the concept, public support appears strong, and economic pressure on households is growing every month. So the big question is, do you think Trump will actually move forward with this plan, or is it just another political strategy to energize his base ahead of future elections? Let us know what you think, because for millions of Americans still recovering from years of economic turbulence, even the possibility of a $2,000 check brings a glimmer of hope.